Hi, my name is Xavier Hernandez, and today I'm gonna talk about Dana Paola's song Sodio and what I see Sodio as in within the queer theory and how I understood Sodio to be interpreted towards the queer community. So I first want to talk about who Dana Paola is and why I think she's kind of important for this. So Dana Paola has started her career at the age of 4. She is known as a Mexican actress, and for a long time she was known for being one of Mexico's like talent to explode. As of recent years, she has still kept the actress as part of her trajectory, but she has also added the singing to her career, and she's also one of Mexico's artists and one of the few allies of the queer community for Mexico and Latin America. Dana Paola is had stopped pursuing music for a couple years, and she resumed back in 2020, and with a comeback that no one really saw coming, as well as seeing a new version of her and how the new direction she was trying to take her career as well as her music in. So Siete is the name of her fifth album. She had released this during the midst of the COVID pandemic in 2020. During this time, a lot of things were happening in Mexico, especially with the legalization of same-sex marriages in all of the country, and how they were also trying to remove being gay as out of the mental illness within Mexico. For some places of Mexico, it was still allowed to do shock therapy and to have conversion camps in Mexico. Um, so Dana Paola was doing a lot of rallies during this time and had also been part of the Pride of Mexico in 2021, as well as the one in 2020, I believe. So I believe Siete is important because Siete is the new comeback she has done. And this comeback, she was trying to like distinguish herself from her prior work. Due to being a Mexico actress, a lot of the music she was releasing had to do with the project she was working in at the time. So it was very common to see in Mexico that if you were in a band within a soap opera or TV show, you were more like most likely to actually have a own contract where you will release music under that brand or under that name of whatever TV show project you were working in. So Dana Paola's work prior to this had a lot to do with the project she was in or any soap opera she was in. And she spoke about this in some interviews where she talked about how she was trying to distinguish herself from the Dana Paola before because she didn't believe that none of her prior work talked about society issues as well as political issues, and she wanted to take her music in a new direction. And this is when she released Sodio. So I believe Sodio has a great queer representation, and it talks about relationship with closeted men, as well as talking about the allyship of being a woman and knowing these closeted men that don't tell you they're queer or gay, and you end up falling in love with them, and you have form a relationship with them, an emotional relationship, and how society in Latin America doesn't allow for queer men to be out and proud, and instead they have to hide behind this shame, and it affects everybody around them. So I want to talk about the music video. I want to show this clip. So throughout the whole music video, pretty much shows Dana Paola falling in love with Prince Charming, and as they continue to further their relationship, the man actually falls in love with another man, and they have a secret relationship. and the guy falls in love with the partner he had been cheating with, and Dana Paola finds out, and instead of vilifying the situation, she talks about how she understood the situation and she felt sad that the guy had to present himself in something he wasn't because of society, and how he viewed relationships were supposed to work, and how he had viewed himself as a certain way. And I think that was very important when reading and understanding queer theory, especially in Butler's work. I want to talk about the liberation theory talked about in Butler's Playing It Queer, which in pretty much he talks about how we're allowed to create boundaries in which we no longer have to be part of the same system where where monogamous relationships work, in which there's heterosexual relationships. We could reject those type of things and we could create our own system, and which is will be like polymorphous and androgynous, and how we don't have to be constrained by those same values same sex opposite sex couples go through. And then I want to talk about the erotic freedom, and then how that challenges the traditional roles of sexuality, and how that's also seen within the music video. How in the music video, Dana Paola and the guy were traditional roles, and how at some point the guy knew that that relationship wasn't working, and he fell in love with another man, and they took upon other roles in that relationship as well. And then I want to talk about how I view assimilation, and how I think people view assimilation as well, and how it could actually affect the queer community. So I view assimilation as the queer community accepting the roles that were given to us and assimilate in order to facilitate the way um, we see ourselves in the homogeneous like a homogeneous society, and how assimilation could cause many effects because we're no longer going against the norms, but instead we're accepting the norms and becoming part of the conversation in a way that we initially didn't want to be part of. Like talked about the liberation wrote talked about earlier, in which we spoke about, and that somehow we become privileged to being queer because we have accepted these roles of mainstream queerness, mainstream gay, mainstream lesbian. I think people could see that as no longer going against the norm and fighting the system. Instead, we become part of the system. I think that's very important within the context, especially in homonormativity, because in this, Butler talks about how many places we were stigmatized with the mental illness because we were queer, because we were gay, we were given these treatments. They talk about shock therapy, lobotomies, and surgical removal. And not until like 1973 had this been taken away. So I think it's very interesting comparing that to Mexico, because Mexico is going throughout this phase of trying to legalize and give rights to same-sex couples and queer people, and that this is just one of the faces we have to accept when it comes to assimilating and trying to become part of the system, because you at the end of the day you do want to become part of the system in order to get benefits of being in a relationship and accepting certain rights that you kind of want and need in order to be able to exist and be part of society. So I thought that was very interesting to see. And I believe that Donna Paola is a good person to see when it comes to queer theory, and how you could see how queer theory can be influenced by homonormativity and by allyship as well. Thank you.